Hi everyone, let's go over my low time frame bullish and bearish scenarios, including potential trading setups, starting with the first low time frame Elliott Wave bullish scenario on Bitcoin, where this is the high of a wave 3, looking for eventually this wave 4 to end before then a move to the upside in a wave 5. Now inside this wave 4, we then expect a corrective structure, a 3-wave structure, where at the moment with this particular scenario, I'm looking at a zigzag, which then is a 5-3-5-wave move, an A, B, C over here, where inside this yellow wave B, we then have a 3-wave structure, which is an expanding flat. So we then have an A, B, expanded flat, and then wave B to the upside. We're currently priced for the second time in a row right now, hit the most common target area for a wave B in an expanding flat, which is between the 1.236 and the 1.38, pulled from the low of this A to the high of this A. So then eventually we now really expect a move to the upside, which should be an impulsive move, as wave C in an A, B, C expanding flat is an impulsive structure. Now in this 3-wave move over here, so inside the wave B of this expanding flat, this structure over here, which then is an A, B, C, right? This wave B retraced to the 0.886, which is a common target for a wave B and a rare target for a wave 2. So therefore it makes it at least a little bit more likely that this move over here, this structure to the upside, was a wave B and not a wave 2, and then a very impulsive structure to the downside, which I'll show in my bearish scenario. So this is at least putting the probabilities a little bit more in this being a corrective structure, but of course time will tell. But in this particular scenario, we expect wave B to end in this target area over here, move to the upside, where the target area for this wave C in the expanded flat, and therefore wave B, is going to be about this section over here between the 1.236, which sits at 30.5k, and the 1.618 is an interesting level at around 30.8k. And also I have a target box just above, and it is very valid and fine if price is going to hit the target box as well, which is between 30.7 and 30.9k. And another thing I like about this scenario, I suppose, is that we have a double top over here, and these highs were made during the weekend. And yeah, double tops and bottoms actually are like magnets for price, and also these were made during the weekend. So personally, I would like it if the markets are like, yo, we're going to wreck the people that went short over here. We're going to take their stop losses and then eventually move to the upside, finish this wave C and then wave B, for then eventually another wave C to the downside, which then is an impulsive structure, where if that happens and if price is going to move to the upside, we are then generating now, if we're not going to take this low with the wick that we just made, we now have a triple bottom basically instead of a double bottom, because first we had this low and this low, but if this is going to be another low, we have a triple bottom over here at the lows, which we can then take if price is going to move to the downside. So in this particular scenario, we then have wave B, wave C to the downside, taking the liquidity of the lows that we have over here as the main support for then eventually a liquidity grab for a move to the upside. And that would also be my main support area, this double bottom or then maybe even triple bottom, because below this area over here, there's not too much support, and the invalidation for a wave 4 is taking the lows over here at about 29k. And actually, usually with a wave 4, you don't want to see candles close below the 0.5. So that is definitely something to look for. And as it stands now, we are finding support on the 382, which is fine, but I don't think at the moment that this wave 4 is finished if price is going to move from here to the upside. Now the potential trading setup, as mentioned in my morning update, is risky. It is valid, but it is a little bit more risky as I guess the charts are not completely clear. But with this high potentially having a higher probability of being a wave B as it hit 0.886, and also if we look at the volume, then currently volume is still lower. So if this is a wave 1 and this is a 2 and then another 1, 2, and this is part of a bigger wave 3, we eventually want to see volume increasing. At the moment, the volume is still a little bit lower. So even though it is risky, it's still a valid scenario over here where the longs can be laddered in the target area for this wave B. The stop loss maybe below this wick, but if you want to play it a little bit safer, below the double bottom, better safe than sorry. Of course, no financial advice, but this is how you can trade certain Elliott Wave scenarios, or potentially, of course, depending on what's going to happen. And then eventually expecting this move to the upside, where the main and first target is going to be then the double top. If we then look at the second bullish scenario that I thought of because of the price action we had here as well, ranging here for a while right now. Of course, we just had the wick to the downside. If price is going to go below this low over here and find more downside, another potential wave 4 scenario for then eventually a wave 5 to the upside is that this over here is a wave A. This was a 3 wave in B already, and then this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 moving down in a wave 5. So that is why the long scenario over here is so risky at the moment as well, is that it's not the clearest, nicest setup I've seen in Elliott Waves, right? It's a risky one, so keep that in mind. And in this scenario, this might be then the low for this wave C. As mentioned, there is not too much support below these lows over here. Basically for me, the only little bit of support is this range over here from a structural point of view. So price definitely has to find support at this area. Of course, the 0.5 is here as well, so it's going to be very tight, maybe wicking below the 0.5, closing on top of the 0.5, but it's all about this range that needs to hold, and it would be quite like low and maybe more bearish as well if this is already going to go to the downside. But this is a potential other scenario where this is a wave A, then we have a WXY in a wave B, and then eventually this wave C to the downside, where the most common target area is between the 1 and the 1.236, which has at least a little bit of confluence with the high over here for then maybe a support resistance flip, so resistance and then eventually finding support here for upside. But this is definitely at the moment an alternative bullish scenario with my between the two, right? The preferred bullish one being first moving up then down instead of moving down already, at least towards this area over here. Of course, we could wick below this low over here, take some liquidity and then up. Okay, that's fine. But if we really go below basically this low over here and this scenario comes into play, it's definitely an alternative bullish scenario, and we have to wait and see also how impulsively price would go to the downside, because if then the volume is going to be increasing, then of course there's no scenario or setup over here. And as you can see, I didn't put any potential long scenario on the chart at the moment, because for me it's just at the moment not really that likely and that nice, that good looking, I should say. So then the bearish scenario I like to show you, which is the final scenario where this is the end of a wave 5 and then an impulsive structure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So either then this being a 3, 4, 5 in the bullish one, or this is the end of 5 and we're looking to the downside where we're then looking for a 1, 2, 1, 2. So this then being a wave 1, 2 in blue, then another 1, 2 in white, moving to the downside impulsively. Now currently the volume, however, not really supporting the move to the downside. This over here was then a wave 1. We then have a wave 2, another 1, 2 white. Okay, fine. But then if this is part of a bigger wave 3, because this is then a wave 3 of a wave 3, you expect volume to really pick up, right? You want to see high volume moves to the downside. Yes, this move over here was quite a nice amount of volume, right, to the downside, but not as high as this move over here. So a little bit disappointing, but then eventually if price is going to go to the downside, you really want to see a high volume peak as well, because this then has to be very impulsive to the downside if this is going to be a 1, 2, 1, 2 and a 3 to the downside. There's however two things why I don't necessarily like this scenario too much, and is it an alternative? Yeah, it's the only bearish one I have, but between the bullish and the bearish scenario, I think the bullish one at the moment is still preferred, as long as it's, you know, not invalidated. This bullish scenario, I mean, then, so this one first moving up is still the preferred, I suppose, scenario. Because the bearish one over here, two things I don't really like to see is wave 2 retracing to the 0.886 if this is a 1, 2, because this is a rare target for a wave 2, more commonly for a wave B. And also if this is a 1, 2, 1, 2, I like to see this being a 1, 2, then another 1, 2, and then a 3. So the second one is going to take the lows of the first one. But in this scenario, the second one is higher than the first one, which is not something I like to see, and usually is not really an indication for a 1, 2, 1, 2. So yeah, this is definitely something to pay attention to. Now, the potential trading setup we had here at the highs was because this could be the end of a wave 5. Between the 1.236 and the 1.618 is a common target for a wave 5, pulled from the high of 3 to the low of wave 4. And once we saw this move to the upside quite slowly, gotta say, and eventually ending in this area, starting to move to the downside, this potential trading scenario is basically activated. By now, if price is really going to push to the upside, either the stop is going to be above this wave 5 at the moment. in case price would go to this blue target box and then move down. But if price is going to go up here, yeah, it's like this bearish scenario becomes very unlikely. So more or the better option at this moment, if shorts were laddered in this area over here, stop loss, break even, and then, you know, if it runs to the downside, very nice, maybe a TP1, and then, you know, see what happens. But yeah, that is definitely, based on Elliott Waves, a potential trading scenario and an option to do. Of course, guys, it's educational. We're on YouTube. I'm not a financial advisor. I just show you my insights, and hopefully you learn by also me showing the potential trading setups and how things work, like what I'm looking for and all that stuff. Because I don't necessarily trade Elliott Waves myself, because I have an additional strategy, but I use Elliott Waves for direction, and it is part of my strategy. But I have a way more complex entry, exit, all that sort of stuff, like a separate personal developed strategy as well for my trading. So I really try to show you from an educational point of view what setups are potential setups as well, and why, especially the why. And that's what you got to understand. Why is Koen talking about this potential setup? Why is the stop loss then here? Why is the target over here? You know, what is he looking for in the waves? And hopefully, because of all the information I'm sharing with you about the potential trading scenarios and how it works, you get a bit of a feeling on how to implement this stuff for your own trading, and maybe implement it in actually your trading, like actually trading certain scenarios that you see on the chart. Now, of course, not gonna lie, with all the scenarios that we've had over the past, weeks, they've turned out very, very, very well. But then again, there's no financial advice. All this stuff is educational. Just try to study, and you will be able to do all of this yourself. They always have this quote, right, where you don't want to give someone a fish. You don't want to give someone a fish. You want to teach someone how to fish so that that person has fish for life, right? So anyway, all this stuff at the end. I hope this video was helpful or valuable to you. I'd like to thank you for watching and subscribing, and I will see you at my next update at 7 p.m. later today, Central East European time. Bye-bye.